The Dinosaur's Night Before Christmas, a poem by Anne Mukey. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the hall not a creature was stirring, there was no sound at all. The fossils were standing where always they stood, looking out o'er a now fast asleep neighborhood. And across the wide street, a small boy, tucked in tight, wished the museum's dinosaurs all a good night. But just as the boy was beginning to doze, an unusual clatter of noises arose. Such a racket of creaking sounds filled the boy's head that he woke with a start and sat straight up in bed. Peering out through his window, he saw, clear as day, that the dinosaur fossils were starting to sway. Back and forth the bones shook on their pins in their stands, swinging necks, bending knees, and outstretching their hands. And believe it or not, it was certainly true that the dinosaur bodies were growing anew, sprouting rainbows of colorful feathers and scales from the tops of their heads to the tips of their tails. So fantastic a scene, the boy had to see more. So he dashed down the stairs and right out his front door. With no care about snowdrifts that covered the street, the boy hurried across it in just his bare feet. And by luck, the boy found the museum unlocked, so he raced to the dinosaur floor, then he stopped. For he suddenly thought, could a room full of beasts who for millions of years have had nothing to eat find a small bite-sized boy so delicious a sight that they'd forego a friendship for sheer appetite? And just then from behind the boy came a loud hiss as a large toothy mouth seized the boy with a kiss. A T-Rex who was wearing a wreath on his head, eating handfuls of pterosaur-shaped gingerbread. In an ambush had caught the small boy, don't you know, standing under the big dinosaur's mistletoe. With a pat on the back and a cup of eggnog, the boy helped friendly dinosaurs light their Yule log. And together they joyfully danced round the fire, singing holiday songs in melodious choir. Then a band of young duckbills, all dressed up in holly, invited the boy with a gesture quite jolly to stand on their tall heads and, reaching out far, top the dinosaur's tree with a bright Christmas star. From a distance, the soft tinkling sound of sleigh bells echoed through the large hall as a booming voice swelled, calling Pronto and Maya and Steggy and Packy, on Tritops and Raptor, on Rexy and Bracky. And cheers rang out as through the window appeared Santasaurus with sleigh pulled by 8 dino deer. Handing out gift-wrapped packages to every beast, Santasaurus swooped down and then headed due east. But the boy, catching hold as the sled sailed by, hitched a ride home with Santasaur through the night sky. Landing safe in his bed on soft pillows of down, the boy waved as the Santasaur flew over town. And the Santasaur said, as he sped out of sight, "There's a dinosaur ball every Christmas Eve night." Shining rays from the morning sun on Christmas Day made all memory of dinosaurs fade fast away. But folks wondered why, hanging up high on a wall, there was mistletoe found in the dinosaur hall.
Good evening. It is just before 7 p.m. In Arizona, and I welcome you to the first ever meeting of the Pinal Geology and Mineral Museum and the Pinal Gem and Mineral Society online. I appreciate your attendance, and I appreciate your patience as we work out some technical bugs. What I'm going to do is I'll start right at with the presentation. I'm just going to say hi here and give you some information. Please feel free to make comments. You can just say hi. You can ask questions on the YouTube screen if you can. I will I will try and answer any questions you have. I will do my best. I will tell you that I am not a geologist. I'm a biologist. So if you get, but I do my best with geology. And so I will do my best. So here we go up to the hour, and I'm going to just sort of say hello. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with the program, and let's see what we can do to show what I'm doing. And I will move through the screen, and let's see, there's the screen. This is the first time I've done this, so please bear with me as we have a few technical details to work out. And that seems to be one of them. So, again, welcome to the Pinal Geology and Mineral Museum and Pinal Gem and Mineral Society show. I do thank you all for coming and appreciate your time. So here it is. This is geologic trip in or on or of or something of the Western USA. And my name is Bob Hull, and I am with the Geology and Mineral Museum of Pinal in Pinal County. And we're located in Coolidge, Arizona. And this trip was taken, this was an actual trip. This is not just a highlights from different trips. This is one trip. It was taken in June, July, and August 2008. And you can see on the map there, hopefully, the route I took. Roughly, I went the southern route east and the west and the northern route west. And I started where that light just flashed in Roseville, California, near Sacramento. That Roseville area is part of the California Delta, or on the far eastern side of the California Delta. California Delta is part of the Great Central Valley, and this starts on top of the ancient Sierra Nevada. The Sierra Nevada was there before the Sierra Nevada that is now. But this flatland here is alluvium from starting about 2.5 million years ago. It's filled during the Pliocene and Holocene. The Central Valley alluvium is washed down from the ancient Sierra Nevada. And it washed down from what was covering this. This is the granite from the Sierra Pluton, or batholith, excuse me, one of the many plutons in the Sierras. And this is near Kybers, 40 miles east of Placerville on the Highway 50. And both of the sign on the left and the granite, in place granite on the right, are somewhere between 150 and 80 million years old. The magma was cooling below the surface, or intrusive igneous rock, excuse me, and the uplift of the Sierra, of the batholith, started about 85 million years ago, when the Farallon plate subducted under the North American plate. That also did some damage in the far eastern. The ancient Sierra Nevada overlaid this and had eroded down into the Central Valley and into into Nevada. Or Sierra Nevada granite. This is about 8,000 feet, 7,740 feet on Highway 80 near Waterhouse Peak. This is Luther Pass. This is the original Pony Express route between Carson City, Nevada and Placerville, California. It changed after just a short time. I'm not sure whether weeks or months, but a very short time. This is more of that granite. The granite all over the Sierra is from several plutons that make up the batholith, and they're of different ages and different compositions, and so are slightly different throughout the region. This is Monitor Pass. This is where I crossed the Sierra Nevada. These are, again, Mesozoic granitic rocks. This is, as you can see, 8,314 feet in the Sierra Nevada, and this is on Highway 89. Getting to the eastern Sierra, stopped by Mono Lake, and this is from Mono Lake County Park, which is where you can best see the tufa towers. The lake itself is at least 760,000 years old, and the tufa towers are limestone. They are, they were formed by calcium-rich springs that bubbled up in the water, and the carbonate-rich water mixed with the calcium-rich spring water, the lake water mixed with the calcium-rich spring water, and they formed the limestone and built up these towers around the water spout. And the water just kept coming up the spout until the tufas, tufa towers, some got quite tall. This one is about 20 feet tall, sitting on the edge of the lake. Traveled south on 395. 395, it runs down the eastern Sierra. It's a wonderful highway. I'd recommend anybody take it. There are lots of wonderful geological sites along the way. This is the southern end of the Long Valley Caldera. This is Crowley Lake in Mono County, California, and the caldera was formed also, coincidentally, maybe, about 760,000 years ago. It is a supervolcano. It is still live and active, just like Yellowstone. And this particular caldera is 20 miles east to west and 11 miles north to south. It's about 3,000 feet deep from the edge, from the top of those mountains there, which are part of the edge of the caldera, to the valley floor. And it, when it erupted 760,000 years ago, the ash spread quite widely. This is a picture of a map of the caldera, and the green dot is where I was photographing that last picture from. You can see the rim of the caldera there, and the mountains around it. Is still an active geothermal area. Mammoth Lakes is inside it, if you've ever visited Mammoth Lakes or the town of Mammoth. When it exploded, it covered quite a large area. The ash from the explosion covered much of the western U.S., including Arizona here, and sent ash as far east as Nebraska, over 1,000 miles. The western edge from that same green dot location, the western edge of the Long Valley Caldera is southern Sierra granite and other things. There are the southern Sierra, south of Monitor Pass, where I crossed, is much more jumbled geologically than the northern half of the Sierra. There are granites, like on McGee Mountain, there to the right. Flag Mountain, though, in addition to some granites, is also got some basalts and other volcanic products, and it is much more complex, and it's involved with the San Andreas Fault farther south in of here, but it all mixes really well. California geology is said to be some of the most complex in the world, and even compared to here in Arizona, it's quite diverse. And if you want a real geologic experience, travel the West Coast, travel California. From the caldera, I turned east and north. This is the beginning of Highway 6. And if I traveled all the way on Highway 6, 3,205 miles, I'd hit Provincetown, Massachusetts. So not a bad trip. Not going that far on this particular trip. To the right this is the Chalfant Valley, and it is kind of the first basin in the Basin and Range Province. The mountains on the horizon there are the White Mountains of California. You may have heard those, and the peak, which is barely visible on the far right there, that is White Peak. It's about 14,000 feet tall above sea level, and stands proudly with this was taken on July 1st, and there is still snow on that mountain, so it's quite a tour. Crossed in Nevada, and my first major stop was Tonopah, Nevada. Not Tonopah, Arizona, for those of you who are in Arizona. Tonopah, Nevada is a mining town. It has a mining historical park, which was quite interesting. I was unable to take the full tour, but I got to drive around a little bit. It's a silver mining town. The rocks around are andesite and other extrusive igneous rocks, dating from the Oligocene, early Miocene, around 25 million years old. There are silver mines. This area of silver mines was active about 1900 to 1920. There are mines in the area that continue today, including some turquoise mining. And if you are able sometime to take a look at our website, you will be able to see some turquoise from the Tonopah mining area. It's a cool area to visit, and it features to my knowledge, the world's only clown motel. So if you love clowns, every room is decorated as a different clown. Continuing east on Highway 6, I stopped at Warm Springs. Warm Springs is a little town. Well, it's not even a little town anymore. It's a ghost town. This is all visible from the highway. There's a little cabin there, and the red arrow points to the main building, and that is where the spring is, right up against the mountain there. It's a hot spring, and the right picture there is a discharge ditch from that spring. It's iron rich. It has been closed for a very long time, and it is private property, so you can't go there. And the spring appears to be, or the pool at the spring appears to be still there, but it's not maintained or anything, so it's probably not a safe place to be. The rocks here behind the red arrow and the buildings are foreland basin assemblage. They're Lower Mississippian, Upper Devonian, about 360 million years old. Shale, siltstone, sandstone, conglomerate, a real mix. Rocks around them are igneous. At Warm Springs, turn right. I turned right to go from 6 to 375, Nevada 375. This is truly basin and range. It's Pleistocene, Holocene alluvium, all that dirt on the ground, derived from the surrounding ranges about 17 million years, or beginning about 17 million years ago. Obviously, I did not make it to Providence. 375 is a non-geological detour. It is the extraterrestrial highway. And I did make a stop, of course, at the Little Alien. They have good burgers and an interesting gift store. If you are interested in UFOs at all, I recommend. Well, even if you aren't, I recommend this place as an interesting place. Area 51, if you know about that, is west of Rachel, where the Little Alien is. And the black mailbox, which is no longer there, was here. Area 51, the Groom Lake Air Base, is a place purported where we keep the aliens. At the south end of 375, the highway merges with Highway 93. This is Highway 93 just north of I-15 near the southern end. This is Arrow Canyon Range. It's part of the Bird Spring Formation. Limestone and dolomite with some shale. You can see there on the left, it's got a Joshua tree or two, and that makes it part of the Mojave Desert. Behind me, on the other side, behind the photographer, on the other side is the Sheep Range, which is part of the Great Basin Divide. This in front of the camera is actual part of the Great Basin drainage. Behind that is the Sheep Range. The Great Basin Divide separates the Pacific and Great Basin drainages. This is all gray limestone, ranging in thickness from very, very thin to about 60 feet thick. This is some of the rock that I picked up in the area, just so you can take a good look at it. And then I stopped in Las Vegas, of course, for a convention, and then went on to the Hoover Dam. And this was before the new bypass was installed. They were still building it at this time. This was 2008. And the right picture was taken on the Hoover Dam, and it's got Middle Miocene volcanic rocks and Colorado River sediments in those rocks back behind the dam. The one on the left was taken at the now closed Hoover Dam overlook. On the Arizona side, those are, let's see, what are they? Basalt, andesite, flow breccias, and a bunch of other stuff mixed in there. Those are, for those of you who are interested. I hope all of you are interested. Continuing on in Arizona, my next major stop is Sunset Crater Volcano National Monument, northwest of Flagstaff, Arizona. And there is a sign there to prove that that is Sunset Crater Volcano. The cinder cone, or the volcano is a cinder cone. It's about 1,120 feet high. It probably erupted, best recent guess is in 1085 Common Era, so about 1,000 years ago. Cone itself is extinct, but it is part of the San Francisco volcanic field, which is not extinct. It is the youngest of the cinder cones in the field, though. This is part of the lava flow of that last eruption in 1085. This is the Bonita lava flow. It's on the west side. It is lava. Lava flows quickly, and the cooling bits fall into the flow proper and are tumbled, and they form chunks. That's in contrast with Pahoehoe, which is smoother and ropier. The way I tell the difference is lava is lava where you walk on it and you say while Pahoehoe lava you just walk on. This is, I believe, I didn't know at the time, and I don't know now for sure, that this is Strawberry Crater, a cinder cone north of Sunset Crater. It's about 1,000 feet high. The surface and the landforms here are 50 to 100,000 years old, including those around Sunset Crater. Excuse me, my notes here are a little foggy. Because I was a little foggy probably writing them. The volcanic field is base elevation there is about 5,500 feet, and the crater rises about 1,000 feet above that, the cinder cone of Strawberry Crater. Moving west to Winslow and the area around there, I stopped at Meteor Crater. You can't make a geologic tour of the West without stopping at Meteor Crater, the first known crater, meteorite crater. It is about 3,900 feet in diameter. It is over 560 feet deep, and the rim that you can see along the edge there is 148 feet above the surrounding plains. That's the outside. The center of the crater is filled with about between 700 and 800 of rubble lying above the bedrock. It is about 50,000 years old, 49,000 years old in that area. When the meteorite hit, the meteorite was the size of Mount Everest. Was the size of Mount Everest. This is the largest known piece of the crater left, or of the meteorite left. It was an iron nickel meteorite, and it is less than a meter long. Not much less, but less than a meter long. It still weighs 1,400 pounds, being made of nearly pure iron and nickel. Then I went on to Petrified Forest National Park, a little southeast of Holbrook, excuse me. And this is the reason for Petrified Forest National Park. This is the state fossil of Arizona, the petrified wood. It's Triassic age. It has a scientific name there, Araucaria xylana arizonicum, but that is only one of the at least 3 species of petrified wood that you find there. There are at least 2 others that have been lumped in with that, and more work is currently being done to figure out how many species of petrified wood there actually is in Petrified Wood National Park. At the near the north end of the park are the teepees. These are badlands. These particular teepees are part of the Blue Mesa member of the Chinle Formation, Triassic still. The whole area was a swamp, or at least a flat plain with winding rivers on it. And right now, it consists of thick deposits, gray, blue, purple, and green mudstones. Along with that, there are some, you can see them, white bands of sandstone. The formation is also exposed, a different part of it, and the Painted Desert at the north end of the Petrified Wood National Park. This is also mostly badlands, and dates from the Chinle Formation dates from the late Triassic, 230 to 210 million years old. On the edge of the Painted Desert is the Painted Desert Inn. It is now a museum. It was built, the reason I am interested in it from a geology standpoint, is that it is built out of originally petrified wood from the surrounding area. The adobe dates from the 1930s, but it was built about 100 years ago out of petrified wood. Unfortunately, it is built on bentonite clay. And as soon as it was built, the clay during the wet season would swell and shrink in the dry season, and the foundation of the inn shifts, and walls and water got damaged, and cracks formed fairly early on. It is a museum. Unfortunately, you can't stay there. They don't have any food service. I am very sorry that is the case. Moving now into New Mexico, I stopped at El Morro. This is a mostly Zuni sandstone. It's Jurassic in age. It's the yellowish and gray-white sandstone. It is formed out of dune sand. The particles are dune sand size. And the dunes field that was solidified into El Morro and surrounding sandstones is from a dune field that stretched across northwestern New Mexico, northeastern Arizona, southwestern Colorado, and southeastern Utah, approximately 150 million years ago. The very top, the darker rocks capping the bluff are Dakota sandstone. We'll hear about Dakota sandstone a little later again. Those are Cretaceous, 145 to 65 million years old. There is a water hole at the base of the monument, or at the base of the Morro. Morro means rock. And it was the only local source of continuous water for travelers and the local people, indigenous peoples. There are inscriptions dating back probably thousands of years. The earliest date on an inscription is 1605. So it was known to the Spanish as early as that. And this is a better shot of El Morro and those beautiful sandstone cliffs. Travel east in New Mexico, and this is the Malpais lava flow. It's west of Carrizozo, north of White Sands National Park. This lava flow is about 5,000 years old, and about 5,000, and you can see here the extent of it. Compare that to White Sands there on the map as well. The lava flow is 4 to 6 miles wide, 160 feet thick, covering a total of about 125 square miles. It's one of the youngest, if not the youngest, lava flow in the continental United States. So it's very new, but it's still growing. It doesn't have the trees of the Bonita lava flow in Sunset Crater, but it's doing pretty well. You can see that. A little black peak that just appeared on the map there is where the lava erupted from, just north there of Carrizozo. And it is in the desert, so it's not going to get pine trees on it like the Bonita flow, but it does have those cholla up on top, and there are other things. This is just along the edge of where Highway 380 cuts across the lava flow. I, of course, went to White Sands National Monument, and this is all gypsum sand formed at the end of the last ice age, when about 12,000 years ago. The gypsum itself formed in the Permian Sea, when off the coast of Pangaea, 280 to 200 million years ago. The gypsum formed at the bottom of that sea. It eroded from the surrounding mountains after they were uplifted and deposited in Lake Otero. Lake Otero dried up near the end of the last ice age. The gypsum is soluble, fairly easily soluble. So don't dump your water out here if you go. But the lake dried up like many lakes do, and rather than leaving behind salt, also like many lakes do, it left behind the gypsum. The gypsum had eroded from the surrounding mountains. And it is really white. That last picture showed that it's a bit yellow, but this one is really white. It is blindingly white. Please do take your sunglasses. That's my trusty steed there that took me on this long trip and several others. It is the largest dune field in the world. It is 275 square miles and ranges in elevation from around 4,000 feet. Now at the bottom at the bottom of that map there's a red dot, and that is Lake Lucero. Lake Lucero is the source of new gypsum sand still feeding into the White Sands National Monument. Gypsum is still eroding from the mountains there. It's still flowing into Lake Lucero. The lake is intermittent. The wet season, it will be there. In the dry season, it dries up completely, leaves behind gypsum, which then is blown into, with the prevailing winds, the White Sands, and replenishes a bit. Headed northeast in New Mexico and went to Blackwater Draw. Blackwater Draw itself is an intermittent stream, but the archaeological site there was quite interesting. This is apparently a bison kill spot, at least where bison were and other animals, Pleistocene megafauna, were butchered. Let's see, the Clovis people were named from points found here. They were until recently recognized by most as the earliest peoples known in the New World. They were here about 12,000 years ago. Two of the Clovis points here they were the type specimens for the Clovis peoples. On that site at Blackwater Draw is the oldest well known in the New World. It's about 11,000 years old. There was a local lake here, and as it dried up, people who were already lived here started digging a well. They were here for quite a long time, and they dug that well. Moved north into Kansas, and this time went to Monument Rocks. Monument Rocks is east of Elkader, Kansas, but Elkader only has a population of 8. So if you look it up, it'll say it's near Oakley, Kansas, which is about 30 miles north instead of 5 miles east. So, or 2 miles east, excuse me. But Oakley has a big town, or is a big town, so they say it's near there. These columns are about 70 feet tall. They are sedimentary formations of Niobrara chalk. They were deposited during the time when the area was covered by the Western Interior Sea during the Cretaceous period, about 80 million years ago. If you have ever seen the book or heard of the phrase, the oceans of Kansas, this is where they come from. There are lots of fossils here. many marine creatures. If you do get to see the Monument Rocks, there's a broad picture of the area. The Fick Fossil History and History Museum in Oakley, that 30 miles away town, is a cool place and worth a visit. It does have some really interesting fossils. I told you you'd hear more about the Dakota Sandstone, and here's some Dakota Sandstone at Rock City near Minneapolis, Kansas. They're mid-Cretaceous in age, about a bit earlier to about the same time as the Niobrara chalk. The sandstones formed the sandstone was deposited underwater. Below ground, the Dakota Sandstone holds the Dakota Aquifer, which underlies much of the Great Plains, but here it pops up to the surface as it does at El Morro in New Mexico. It's made up of a number of components, including beach and lagoonal sandstones, shale, conglomerate sandstone layers, deposited in the shallow sea, advanced through New Mexico. The sandstone is tanned yellow-brown and is interbedded with dark gray. And there are fossils in these rocks, though they ask you really harshly to not do them. There are about 200 of these concretions in the park, and they are quite tall. Some of them are taller than me, and I'm 6'4". Also taller than me is Chimney Rock in Nebraska, western Nebraska. It's volcanic ash and roll clay, Oligocene in age, 34 to 23 million years ago old. The spire itself is 325 feet above the conical base, and for a total of 480 feet above the North Platte Valley. It is near South Bluff, which is 800 feet above the North Platte Valley. The top is 4,600 feet above sea level, and in that 800 feet above the valley, there are 740 feet of continuous geological strata from 33 to 22 million years before the present. At the top are the ancient high plains. This is the rock that underlied the ancient high plains, along with the top of Chimney Rock. They show wind, the strata show wind and stream deposits, sand, mud, volcanic ash, lime, sandstone, siltstone, volcanic ash, limestone, a whole bunch of other stuff. It's a real treat to go wandering around there. Northward in Nebraska, we stopped at Toadstool Geological Park. I didn't get any pictures of the toadstool, but these are badlands. Mostly in this particular area, mostly volcanic ash. I'm not sure exactly where from. They're 30 million years old, so they're too old, to be part of the Long Valley caldera ash. But pretty gray. There's lots of fossils here too. Again, it's a park. You are not able, a state park, you're not able to collect, but you can see. Almost to Wyoming. This is the border between Nebraska and Wyoming. This is the Niobrara River, which gives its name to the Niobrara chalk. In the background there, you can see some cliffs, and those are part of the White River group. They are clay and claystone, clay still. There's me standing in the river, so you get the idea of how exactly deep it is. Remember, I'm only 6'4". It's local sandstone. They're in the bed underneath the clay and claystone. The hills above the cliffs are in the Ogallala group. They're Miocene, conglomerate, and mudstone. Then I went up to South Dakota. At the moment, I'm skipping Wyoming. Headed to South Dakota, stopped by Badlands National Park. It is mostly ash from the Great Basin, and it is mixed with sediments washed down from the Black Hills. Black Hills are volcanic. They're to the west of Great Basin, or Badlands, excuse me. And a lot of this is ash, as well as sediments washed down from those Black Hills. Finally getting to Wyoming. This is Devil's Tower. It is the largest example of columnar jointing in the world. Hello. It's the largest example of columnar jointing in the world, formed about 50 million years ago. Geologists are still arguing about exactly how it formed, but its exposure began about 5 million years ago. And it is still falling apart. Joints fall off every few years, or parts of those joints. So you don't want to mess around with it. You can climb it if you are a rock climber, but it is closed during certain seasons. So you want to call ahead if you are, because it has some significant sacred meaning to local peoples, and they close the rock to rock climbing during certain parts of the year for their celebrations. There in Wyoming is the fossil cabin. The fossil cabin has been moved since these pictures were taken. It was bought by the Medicine Bow History Museum in Medicine Bow, Wyoming. This was about 10 miles. It was about 10 miles east of Medicine Bow. It is made entirely of Como Bluff dinosaur bones, probably Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, and other dinosaurs in there. Como Bluff is nearby, and that is where the original Apatosaurus was named from. Reportedly, there are in the cabin 5,796 bones, and the cabin weighs 102,166 pounds. It was bought in about 1915 and opened as a museum in 1917. It was unfortunately closed in 1992, and this year, finally, it was moved to Medicine Bow off this site, where it was in disrepair for many times, or for many years. Moving west yet again. This is Hell's Half Acre in Natrona County, Wyoming, west of Casper. I really recommend a quick stop here. If you can't go down into the valley, but it's a beautiful site if you need a short rest. There are no facilities, and the gates may be closed. It's on private property. It is Eocene, part of the Wind River Formation. There are bison kills and other archaeological evidence in there that the site was used 30,000 to 1,200 years ago. It is 150 feet deep, and siltstone, claystone, interbedded with lenticular buff, or lenticular sandstones. It's really much prettier than this in life. Oh, before I forget, it is not a half acre, it's 320 acres. There we go. Moving north. Between Shoshone and Thermopolis. Thermopolis has a great dinosaur museum. The Wind River Canyon is as deep as 2,500 feet. In this case, the highway is near the bottom, sometimes right at the bottom, just above the river. Canyon cuts through a comprehensive set of Wyoming rock strata. So and many of the strata are noted on roadside signs. There are lots of little pullouts and things like that. The road is a bit windy. You don't want to go during a thunderstorm, but it's quite a beautiful drive, and I can recommend it. The canyon was cut into the established course of the Wind River, which is the water there on the left, and that predates the uplift of the mountains around. The mountains were raised over the past 2 million years from the previously flat terrain. Okay, this is going back south, back west. This is Echo Canyon near the border of Wyoming and Utah. This is Echo Canyon conglomerate, beautiful red cliffs there. These were uplifted in the Sevier orogeny. It's red conglomerate, sandstones, shaly sandstones, and it's all on the Uinta uplift. In this area, they are 3,100 feet thick, and the fossils at about 400 feet up the base are Niobrara age, and the upper part is probably late Cretaceous. This is the area of the spiral jetty at the north end of the Great Salt Lake. The spiral jetty itself is man-made, not a geological formation. Built in 1970, and it's only visible anymore when the lake drops below a certain below a certain level, not all the time. So if it's running high, you shouldn't bother the long road up there. These are Pliocene basalts. The jetty is made out of mostly Pliocene basalts. They're 5 to 2.5 million years old. The youngest in the area is Cenozoic. West of Salt Lake City is the Bingham Canyon Mine. Locals know it as the Kennecott Copper Mine. It's recently changed its names. It's in the Oquirrh Mountains. It has been in production since 1906. It is 3/4 of a mile deep. It is 2.5 miles wide and covers 1,900 acres. If you see that truck right there, Mia 64 is standing by the wheel of that in the middle picture. You can get some idea of how big those trucks are. Those are ore trucks that are bringing the ore up. Most of the rock around there are Pennsylvanian aged sandstones, quartzites, and limestones, known as the Bingham Mine Formation for some reason. Heading west and south of Salt Lake City, this is the Bonneville Salt Flat. It's the remnants of Lake Bonneville, which covered the area 14,000 to 32,000 years ago. It is 320 miles long and 130 miles wide. The lake was fed by glacial meltwater during the spring and summer. During the most recent glacial period, had no outlet, and when the water evaporated in place, it left behind salts, halites. Unlike the white sands, this area was lower in gypsum, and so it did not form gypsum sand, it formed halite. Headed south farther into Utah, and this is Jurassic National Monument, the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry. The quarry is under the buildings there, the quarry itself. The area gets very hot. This was a hot day in about this time that year, 2008. It is located on the San Rafael swell of the Morrison Formation. So it's Jurassic age. This is a real Jurassic Park. It is a fossil deposit, possibly a predator trap. It is a possible it was a possible water hole. They're not quite sure. A lot of people think it's a predator trap. Predator trap is where, like the La Brea tar pits, herbivores would wander in to get a drink, get trapped, and the predators would come and try and prey on the herbivores, and unfortunately, also for them, also get stuck. The reason they think it's a predator trap rather than simply a drought pond is that about 3/4 of the fossils found there are predators. Almost everything found there is a dinosaur. There have been 74 dinosaurs found in the pit. And most of the dinosaurs have, as I said, are carnivorous. They have found at least 44 Allosauruses, him on the left, that make up about 76% of all the remains. They've also found Torvosaurus, Ceratosaurus, Ornitholestes, possibly Camarasaurus, and Camptosaurus and Stegosaurus, and maybe an ankylosaur. It's a quite interesting, everything's quite interesting on this trip. I wouldn't share it with you if it were not interesting, at least to me. In southern Utah, south central Utah, I stopped by Capitol Reef National Monument. It is called Capitol Reef because of the dome shape of some of these hills, referring to capitol domes. And it is called a reef because, not because it's limestone, but because, like a reef on the sea, it was a barrier to travel across the land. Any rocky barrier might be called a reef. It was formed at the it's Navajo sandstone, and it formed at the edge of a shallow sea, part of that Permian Sea. And there's a white rim sandstone at places in the park. White rim sandstone is the same that, there's also Kaibab limestone, and that limestone is the same that forms the rims of the Grand Canyon. There was some deposits of the reddish brown silt you can see in that right-hand picture. And that was formed during the Triassic and is part of the Moenkopi Formation, which we are familiar with. That is the end of my presentation, and it's really the end. That is a mammoth from the Mammoth site in, or was it the Mammoth site in Hot Springs, South Dakota. Okay, so let's see. Let me put me on the screen. There we are. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'm glad to see about 15 people have been watching. And I hope you will be able to, other people, you will share the news that this will be on as a video, not just a live stream. I'm going to leave it up for about 24 hours as this is. And then I will be reposting it, lopping off the first half hour, which was a slideshow with music, and I will leave just the talk. I really thank you for coming to the first ever un-August meeting of the Pinal Geology Museum. Hello. Try that again. I thank you for coming to this first ever meeting of the Pinal Geology and Mineral Museum and the Pinal Gem and Mineral Society. If you have any comments, do pop them in the comments. If I don't see it, or if I haven't seen it, I will definitely acknowledge it later and answer any questions that you may have. I don't see any questions right now, so I'm going to end the broadcast. It is just before 8 o'clock, and I hope you all enjoy your evening and come back for the next one, September 16th. Bye-bye.